The following podcast contains strong language. Hello, and welcome back to the Ciné Rambles podcast. You're listening to Nick
and Andrew,
and we'll be talking all things film for the next hour or so. So how have you been?
All right.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of films this week.
Yeah, we've been pretty good with recent releases, to be fair. Well, we did miss Onward, which had a special preview screening.
Yes, we did.
And we were working.
Yep.
Well. Yeah. So, a bit of an update from last week's episode. We've had one of our viewers tell us, mention The Abyss when we were talking about Underwater, which we managed to completely forget. Andrew, to be fair, has not seen The Abyss.
Nope.
But I have, which is weird because I thought about it when I saw it in a cinema and then completely forgot to mention it during the podcast. But yeah, so The Abyss is, for those who don't know, a James Cameron film from 88, 89, I think, about aliens at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. So yeah, quite a similarity
yeah, very
to
similar.
completely overlook.
Got some early CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The water creature, which was made, the scene was made so that if need be, it can be cut if it didn't work out well enough.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting.
Okay.
So during this section, we'd like to read out any comments or questions people have. So if you do have anything you'd like to tell us and potentially have read out on the show, you can leave a comment on YouTube, or you can send us an email at cinerambles@gmail.com. Genuinely, anything you want us, any suggestions, any opinions, any reviews of stuff we've talked about, anything we've missed, we'll happily read out what you've got. Happy to see what you've got to say.
I have got something.
Oh yes.
A lot of people enjoyed my fundamentals section last time.
Yes, well that's good.
Got some good feedback on that.
We'll be doing some more of that.
Yeah,
maybe next
hopefully.
week.
There's so much stuff to do on Harry Potter for that. Because obviously when there's 8 films, 7 books, there's a lot of content there. But also, I don't want to only do Harry Potter. There are some other ones as well.
You have to read a lot more books now to keep up with the demand.
Yes, I do. I've read a lot of books.
Yeah,
so
well, you
fine.
listen to a lot of books.
Yes,
You're one of those people. I prefer book in hand, which is why it takes me a year to get through a 200-page paperback.
Okay,
so should we get on to the reviews then?
Yes.
Right, what would you like to start with?
Let's start with Dark Waters.
Okay.
Because I've got less to say about that. I think.
Right. So Dark Waters, which was the Mark Ruffalo helmed, not really biopic as such, but sort of, what is the word for that? Sort of like, I guess almost historical, but it's not very...
So it's a dramatisation of something that's been going on for the past 20-odd years.
Yeah, sort of almost sort of like half documentary-esque. It's in the same vein as things like Spotlight.
Yes.
And it's arguably The Big Short and Vice.
Yeah.
In that sort of like, so a dramatisation of a recent historical event, specifically about the poisoning. DuPont. Yeah, the DuPont chemical company poisoning the water supply in, what city was
West
it?
Virginia.
It was in West Virginia, which is the state.
West Virginia.
Yeah. I was thinking of that song while
the
watching it,
time.
and then it came up.
Yes. What a banger. Honestly, that's where the movie peaked for me.
Yeah, that was early.
Yeah, it was.
So so Dark Waters, it's an interesting film considering it's on that weird borderline when you get to documentary, when it sort of starts being less about whether you enjoyed a film and more about just the subject matter and.
Yeah.
Because this is a film that really sort of got under my skin and sort of made me uncomfortable about just how evil some of the corporations in America are.
But at the same time, for me, I feel like it would have worked a lot better as a documentary.
I do agree. It made me just want to watch a documentary on a subject.
Yeah. It felt about, I don't know, half an hour to an hour longer than it should have been.
Yeah, I'd say there was probably the third half an hour of it I felt dragged, but it picked up a bit more at the end. But
so it was roughly 2 hours long.
Yeah, it was 2 hours 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
But
I think it could have been done with being, 95 minutes.
Yeah, I think we were saying just afterwards. There's that section about sort of like just over 2/3 of the way through, where it seems like they're deliberately dragging it out to make a point, which is fine, but they could have made that point much more succinctly and more impactfully. We reckoned in a shorter sort of punch.
Yeah, because they sort of went for it. So what we're talking about, there's a 7-year gap.
Yeah.
So just briefly, it's not really spoilers because this happened in real life.
I think to be fair, it's fair game if it's real events. Yeah.
So they do this test on the water, and they've got a special committee that's not backed by anyone.
They're
it's
completely
not,
independent.
and they're not owned by DuPont, so they can't, fully with bullshit or whatever. And they're waiting back, and is it 90,000 people went for a blood
Something
test?
like that. It was one of the biggest sample sizes of any scientific study ever.
Yeah. And obviously, and then I think it's 7 years go by, so it starts in 2008, and then it...
Yeah, and it takes until like
2015, I think it is.
Something like that, yeah.
2015, 16 maybe. And during that time, there's like half an hour of just basically nothing happening.
Yeah, people sort of waiting around, sort of stewing on why hasn't anything happened.
Yeah.
And the same way, the audience going, why isn't anything happening?
Yeah, exactly. But they even do this thing, like they show scenes like... So you have that big scene in 2008, and then it jumps forward to like 2010, and it has a scene, and then 2012, that has a scene. And then it counts up that it does, like, on screen, it shows, like, the year, like, 2012, and then 2013, 2014, 2015, like, it counts up. They could have just done that from 2008 to 2015 and saved us all half an hour of our time.
Yeah,
I mean... watching basically nothing happening.
We were saying, like, probably the reason behind it is to, like, make the audience feel that sort of length of boredom and uncertainty.
Yeah.
But then there's a golden rule is you should never be deliberately boring in a film. That's, like, the one cardinal sin. Never deliberately bore an audience, because that's not what they're there for.
Yeah. I feel like that... Had that taken out, I probably would have enjoyed the film a lot more.
I think it definitely could have been a much more tighter sort of 100-minute film rather than 125.
Well, the other thing is, like, thinking about it over the weekend, it feels really long, but then also all the scenes feel really fleeting. There's, like, some things that I feel like they should have given a lot more time to were very quickly brushed over. And because it takes place over 22 years and they've got so much content there to then dramatise and make into a 2-hour film, it somehow feels really short and really long.
So what would you say about, you were saying about 1917, how it would have benefited from being a mini-series?
Yes.
Would you say something similar about Dark Waters? If it was to go documentary route,
yes.
Would it be like a...
Because if this was a dramatised series, I wouldn't watch it, because it's...
Yeah.
But if it was a documentary series akin to, say,
Making a Murder,
the Ted Bundy tapes, or Making a Murder, or something like that, then yeah, I would watch that.
So I was thinking, because obviously Mark Ruffalo's an actor, so he's much more happy with fiction than with documentary. I was wondering if...
produced this as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was considering maybe it would work as like sort of the Imposter style, so like half documentary fictionalization sort of hybrid.
Yeah.
Maybe that would sort of allow him to keep that acting side of it while still having the documentary bit to back it up.
Yeah. There was also a lot of what I felt was unnecessary dramatization. Like, he has a fallout with his wife, but, I don't really care about that. I want to know about DuPont, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And
I don't know why it's such a French-sounding name for an American company. Like, DuPont.
And about how they're affecting, and, like, where it lost me, I mean, this sounds a bit bad, was I feel like it spent too much time on the wrong characters. There was a lot of time on his wife and kids, and you're like, well, they're not affected by anything other than...
I mean, you can argue everyone's affected by the water.
Well, yeah, but it just didn't hit me that hard, because I was just... I don't know, it lost me towards the end, I think.
There was a weird thing about his wife being, like, incredibly sceptical of the entire investigation about the water.
Yeah.
Which I found slightly hard to believe, just in the sense that because she was supposed to be like a lawyer as well, like this incredibly smart woman.
Yeah.
And also she should be knowing firsthand through her husband like the stuff he's finding out.
Yeah.
So why is she so skeptical? Like I can understand why.
I think the only reason that exists
for the sake of the drama.
But also to have the scene where he sits her down and explains everything. In a lot more consumable bits, because that's sort of where it picks back up, is where he explains it and you finally see like all the scope of this problem. Like that's where it sort of picks back up again towards the end, and it's like they needed that to then kick it into its climax, in inverted commas, because there wasn't one.
Bitter, are we?
Well, yeah, it just sort of ended, didn't it? And I guess that's because the problem is still ongoing. Arguably.
And it sort of reached as much of a conclusion as it had, where it was like, he's finally got them in court.
Yeah.
And sort of achieved
he's still
that much.
Fighting. It's like, yeah, alright.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was that.
Yeah, I'd say it's not as strong a song like Spotlight. But then Spotlight has like you were saying, like us, got a more definite conclusion than Dark Waters does.
Yeah.
Also, there's a thing with Spotlight, because that's more of an ensemble cast, and I think that extra sort of array of characters adds to it. Well, this is pretty much just Mark Ruffalo single-handedly leading this.
So where I thought this was really good was when he was doing the investigation, finding out about the chemicals, finding out about all the bad stuff that was going on, and trying to convince people. Because that was like the first hour-ish. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. That was good. I was like, oh yeah, this has got me.
But specifically the PFOA mystery, that one thread I found really interesting, how that sort of unravelled and eventually came. Although to be fair, the conclusion seemed a bit like, oh yeah, because we were definitely supposed to be able to guess that.
Yeah. Also, all the stuff with the farmer. So is it someone Tennant? Is his name?
I'm not going to remember his
Wilbur?
name. I'm really bad
I think
at
it's
names.
Wilbur Tennant. Was the guy who brought this case to him. Like, all the stuff with the farmer and how he's just slowly dying, all of animals are dying.
I've got to say, actually, with the farm sequence, I don't know if it's something about the way it was shot or directed, or maybe the sound design, maybe a combination of all of this, but something incredibly eerie about that farm sequence, which I really like. It had this almost horror movie-esque tone to it, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah. There was a lot of good bits in it, but it was just paced badly, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. That's a fair assessment.
And there was nothing... Like, that was the only problem with it, is that it was... I don't want to say boring. That feels too strong. But it definitely lost my interest.
Like, I think it's definitely... It loses its engagement, but the thing is the subject matter's so inherently engrossing on on a human level. I think it's impossible to be fully bored by it.
Yeah.
But I think it did definitely drag a bit. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. And Mark Ruffalo's performance was very good. He loves giving a heartfelt speech. At camera.
He's definitely a bit of an actor.
There is one moment, though. So again, I mean, it's not really spoilers because it happened in real life, but he has a stroke-like thing.
Oh, yeah, the TIA.
The TIA, yeah, which is similar to a stroke, where he starts shaking and losing control. And at that moment, I was like, he is just going to turn into the Hulk. Like, it's so hard to let go of that, because he just looked so hulky in that moment. Had a real tight close-up on his face and of his neck, like...
The veins bulging.
I was like, yep, he's just hulking out. This is it. He's just lost it.
That's the climax of the film, though.
Yeah, I mean...
Hulk takes DuPont to court and just destroys them.
Yeah. I mean, overall, it was alright. I would not watch it again.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
It's a sort of a starting point to explore a deeper topic, I'd say.
Yes. I feel like, hopefully, that this might, I don't know, kickstart a documentary, maybe. So, I mean, I would be very interested to watch a documentary, because I feel like a documentary is more believable, in a way. Not that this isn't believable, but because it's Mark Ruffalo so well known, he's such a recognisable person, it's like, takes away from it a little bit.
Before we watched, he said this felt a bit like an Oscar bait film that was just way too late to the mark.
Yeah. It, sort of.
Do you retract that?
To some extent. Because, I mean, it's definitely Oscar baity, isn't it?
To a degree.
It doesn't feel like anywhere near...
The thing is, it's not. I would say it's not safe enough to be considered Oscar bait, in the sense that it's quite controversial in what it's... A, it's quite a recent event, and B, it's quite sort of, undermining the entire American capitalist system.
Yes.
So it's not as comfortable and clean cut as the Oscars generally likes for their bait.
It is based on a book. I don't know if it's an autobiography, but it's based on a book.
Presumably like the memoirs of the investigation. Kind of thing, yeah.
Would be my assumption. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's about everything I've got to say about that.
That's fair. Okay, should we move on to The Invisible Man then?
Yes. Sure.
Right. So, Invisible Man. You haven't seen the original, have you?
No, I've not seen the original.
So I watched it for the first time over the weekend, having seen the new one, just for comparison.
Yep.
It's going to be a tangent, just because, but I want to talk about the original one quickly, because it's a classic Universal monster film, and I was fully expecting it to be like that sort of gothic horror, like Dracula or Frankenstein. It's basically a comedy. It's just Claude Rains invisible for most of the time, and then stealing people's hats and throwing it into the rivers, and then doing some kind of like clever quip.
So it's not a horror film then?
Well, I would argue not. But it's interesting because I was confused by it, and I went and looked up the original H.G. Wells novel, and apparently that film is quite close to the novel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the original story is just this scientist turns himself invisible by accident and then just goes insane and kills like he's a mass murderer.
Okay.
Because he just turned insane.
Yeah,
but it's got a very comical, basically a comedy more than it's a horror.
Okay.
So, which I think puts the new one in a more interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Because this is much more. So this is taking, what I quite like about it is it's not a straight rehash of the original idea. They've taken the concept of an invisible man and done something new and relevant with it, which I like.
Yes.
And this is definitely much more of a horror film.
Yes. I think it's very good for a horror film.
Yeah, I think compared to most modern horror releases, this is sort of like above average, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. I did enjoy it. There were a couple issues with it, but we'll get onto them. So, should we give a very brief rundown of the plot?
Yeah, might as well, because this is such a new version of the story.
So there is Peggy from Mad Men. Elizabeth
His name
Moss.
yes.
I can't remember what the character's called.
Cecilia,
yeah, that was it. So she's a victim of domestic abuse.
Yeah, so she's with this super rich, he works in optics, he's a scientist.
Yeah, he's an optical scientist.
Yeah, he's supposed to be quite abusive, so she sort of flees from him in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And the cool dog.
Oh, and the dog.
The nice
Which
dog.
doesn't turn up again. Oh, no, it does.
It does, but...
Not as much as I'd like for a dog,
Well, because I thought we talked about this before, this is another, Chekhov's gun, isn't it? I was like, oh, the dog's there. The dog's definitely there for a reason. I was like, maybe the dog's going to defend Cecilia. Or it just doesn't.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it does show up again, but...
Doesn't do anything useful.
There's nothing becomes of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she leaves in the middle of the night. Her sister helps her escape, and then she lives with her friend who's a policeman for a while. And then 2 weeks later, she finds out that her abusive husband...
I think that husband, yeah, because I think husband, because the point is he commits suicide, but he's left all his money to her in his will.
Yes.
So I think they must have been married for that to make sense. Or maybe not, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think it matters too much.
No, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so he kills himself, and then 2 weeks later, she starts getting haunted. Well, you could say haunted.
Well, she starts noticing strange things going on around her, as if she's being haunted by the ghost of her boyfriend.
Yeah, and everyone's telling her it's in her head, but, obviously...
But she soon works out that he is, in fact, still alive, but haunting her via an invisibility suit that he's devised.
Yes.
And so, the main sort of conceit of the film is everyone thinks she's gone mad and she's, being haunted by this thing, when actually she knows there's this invisible man chasing her.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of trying to prove that to the world.
Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting way around it, because it plays into a much more of a sort of a paranoid sense of horror, which I think is quite sort of modern.
So one thing I really did like about it was its excellent use of negative space.
Yes, I thought overall the composition and cinematography was very well done.
It just points the camera into an empty corner and you're like, oh my god, is he there? Is he there? Is he watching? How do we know?
Yeah.
It does that really well. And also, the effects were good, he takes a knife and you just see this knife float off the counter and then disappear. He takes it and it was like, oh, okay, now he's armed.
Yeah.
There's all these things that are really well done. So I liked that aspect of it. I thought the horror's good. It never made me jump. There were a lot of jump scares that were just loud bangs, basically.
That's the thing. It's interesting the way the jump scares worked in this film, because there's a lot of the standard modern horror things where something very, very slightly startling happens, but not horrific. And then the music score will go, boom! And, some really sharp strings, but just sound like it hasn't been mixed properly. They haven't faded in, it's just been left in.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's some scenes, without spoiling, in the restaurant scene.
Yeah.
That jump scare, to me, is the perfect way to do it, because it's something horrific that happens really suddenly.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't need any external or artificial sort of sound editing to make it. There's no strings needed to make it a moment. We just see it for what it is, and that is enough to startle us. And it feels a lot more of an organic scare.
Yeah.
But that's the frustrating thing about it, is having demonstrated that it knows and can pull off these organic jump scares. It then still has some other scares, which is just the classic wham jump scares.
Yeah.
Where it feels so forced. It's like, well, I might have jumped to that anyway, but now that you've made me jump artificially with the music, I don't want to jump anymore.
Nothing really... There was a lot of good horror in there. Like as you say, there's a lot of horrific moments, and there's a lot of tension. You're on your edge of your seat quite a lot, but also there is a lot where I was just like, oh come on, this is very generic.
Yeah.
You know, where she's running through the house, saying like, you know, there's this unseeable thing chasing her, and it's like, well, we've seen this hundreds of times before. And then on top of that, they do those artificial jump scares. I was just like, meh, you know.
I think one of the biggest failing points of the film's horror, and I feel there's probably no easy way around this considering the concept they went for, is because a lot of horror relies on the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And the fact is, this is a very known horror. We've met the character. We
Yeah.
know what we know. Firstly, we know it's a man in an invisible suit. You know, we roughly know what his motivations are. We know who he is. We know why he's doing this. Besides the fear of the unknown of, oh, where is he in the frame? Oh, he's there.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of that fear of the unknown, which I think does stop it from being as horrific as it could be, because it feels almost too grounded for a horror film.
Yeah.
Not that a horror film has to be supernatural for it to be horrific, but there's to be some kind of like unknown element to it.
Yeah.
To give it that sort of fear factor, which I think this film does lack a bit. It feels a bit too. It feels almost too sci-fi thrillery when it does a horror.
Yes.
In some aspects.
So there was a couple of things I didn't like about it, which was mainly like the invisible suit, right? Which somehow, as soon as you put it on, makes you superhumanly strong as well, which was just out of nowhere.
Wow.
Like, he went from just being invisible, you know, that's fine, yeah, it gives you an advantage, but he's, you know, then breaking bones with his bare hands, beating up 6 trained police officers, another one who's like a 6'5" tall brick shit house, and he's like, you know, just easily beats them up, and it's like, how strong are you really?
I can't remember.
You know?
They probably didn't mention it in the film, but I know in the original they did say like, "Oh, he's worked out. He's also a strong person, like by default."
Yeah.
So
well,
I don't
that's
know.
the assumption, but that strong, you know,
Yeah,
being
there
able
is
to
definitely
break someone's leg just by touching it or whatever.
There's definitely a leap involved there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that took a lot of, you know, suspension of the disbelief to sell that. Like,
Yeah.
especially the scene in the mental hospital.
Yeah. Essentially the action highlight of the film.
Yeah. Which I thought was just like...
It seemed out of place for a horror film. Like, it seemed much more the kind of thing I'd expect from a sci-fi rendition of The Raid.
Yeah. It was strange. Yeah, it was out of place. But also it was like, you know, these policemen just come in 2 by 2 and then get very easily dispatched by this invisible man.
I mean, he's invisible.
Well, yeah, but also when that policeman has just walked into a bunch of dead bodies, he sees a floating gun, would you not just open fire? Well, you know, I just feel like there's a lot of convenience there to make to force the script to work.
Yeah.
So I think a highlight for me is Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah.
I think she was very good. Yeah, she stood out. Her acting was, you know, brilliant. I think she pulled off the crazy but not really kind of...
There's a lot of emotional weight to carry in that film. I think it's...
Yeah.
Because so much of the film relies on sort of emotional paranoia.
Yes.
I think that requires a lot of good acting chops to do, which she's demonstrated quite well.
Yeah. So, shall we talk about the ending?
Yeah, I can tell you want to, so we might as well.
Yeah,
so if you'd like to
spoilers, yeah.
skip the spoilers for this, there'll be a time code on the YouTube video.
Okay.
So,
in the end, she goes... It turns out that the Invisible Man, her ex-boyfriend, who was the abuser, was alive the whole time, and that he'd pinned the whole thing on his brother, who she had shot to death after he tried and killed her. Whatever. Right. So she's back in his house, they're having dinner, he's like trying to pretend that, oh, it was the brother who was in control the whole time, and, you know, she's got a wire on her, with her police mate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sitting outside.
She's got a wire and they're trying to get a confession. She's trying to make him confess. She's being like, you know, tell me the truth, was it you the whole time? She's like, I know it was you the whole time, tell me the truth the whole time. And he says, surprise, which he says a few times before.
Or
right?
specifically, Invisible Man texts her surprise quite often.
Yeah, and also he says in the corridor, in the mental hospital, he says surprise. He says it a couple of times. Anyway, but that's enough for her, right? She then's like, oh, I'm just going to the toilet, lol. She then puts on the
second invisible suit
second
she stole
invisible suit.
earlier.
Yeah. And then comes back and kills him.
In the invisible suit.
In the invisible suit. And then,
So it's caught on camera that he committed suicide, in
Yes.
inverted quotes. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if the invisibility suit is known to the authorities. Which, I mean, I suppose that's
maybe they didn't know if there's two, yeah.
Because then it's like, it's quite clear that the way he like slits his throat doesn't look like suicide as far as I say. But
also, so that bit just sort of lost me because I feel like the whole point of the film was the victim rising above the perpetrator, like being better than them. Like he is horrible to her. He kills her sister.
Yeah.
He makes everyone think that she's crazy and horrible and abusive to other people. And then I thought that the whole point of it was that she was going to rise above it, and then even though he's put her through all of this, she still survives. She still gets the has a moral victory. And I did think he was going to die, but I didn't think she was going to kill him. And I feel like that kind of detracted it in a way, because obviously she's got revenge, but I feel like that's lost then this sort of moral high ground that she had. That's also, sort of allegorical for this whole, abuse thing. She's survived. She is better than him by not doing it. And then she sinks to his level by killing him, which makes her no better than him, in a way.
Weird hint that now she's got the invisible suit and she's killed, she's now going to become the new Invisible Man, but the Invisible Woman. Yeah. Which is a dodgy sequel hook.
Yeah, is weird.
Yeah, and again, I think it's completely it's sort of off message from what the rest of the film is going for.
Yeah. See, I feel like that. So originally, let's just talk about the Dark Universe for a bit.
Okay, yeah.
So originally, this was going to be part of the Dark Universe.
With the Mummy and Dracula... Unsomethinged.
Untold,
yeah.
May have kicked it off. I can't remember if that hit.
It was such a small film that no one watched it. I can't even tell.
And then the Mummy with Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is the Mummy featuring Tom Cruise, directed by Tom Cruise, taken over by Tom Cruise.
And there was going to be some other ones as well. I think there was going to be a
Jekyll
werewolf.
and Hyde was planned.
And Jekyll and Hyde, yeah. Because Russell Crowe in the Mummy film was Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah. And in that film, there's like loads of Easter eggs to the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, yeah. Surely the Shape of Water was the
that's the joke, isn't it? Yeah. And they were going to make some sort of, I don't know, traditional horror figure Avengers kind of deal.
Yeah, which I don't quite understand how that was going to work when they're all monsters rather than heroes. Unless it would be like a Suicide Squad style thing. But I was saying, on a slight tangent, I think what would have made more sense was the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yes.
Or which the Invisible Man was a part of, and would still have that sort of supernatural kind of...
Yeah.
But, anti-heroes. But at least they were a pre-existing gang who come together and fight crime, whatever, like the Avengers, rather than trying to force a load of technically unconnected monsters together.
Yeah, but also, like, evil figures, aren't they? Like, Dracula is definitely evil. The werewolf is an uncontrollable beast. Jekyll and Hyde,
tortured scientist.
Exactly, famously good versus evil there.
The Invisible Man is just a lunatic who's just likes throwing things at people.
Yeah, so... Anyway, so originally the Invisible Man was going to be played by Johnny Depp. That fell through, I think, when...
I can't imagine why.
when The Mummy flopped. But they still decided to release this film. And I feel like that bit at the end there was... I don't know if it was left over from the script of the last one. I feel like they were forced to hint at a sequel.
Yeah, that's
so
what
that end really, really makes it feel like, oh yeah, we're doing a sequel. We're definitely doing a sequel.
It definitely feels like a standalone film. So I think there was definitely some sort of rewrite or reshoot to make it its own standalone work.
Yes. The thing is that, especially the way they're doing it, with that, there's nothing, besides the super strength that comes with it for some reason, there's nothing inherently supernatural about it. It's supposedly based in science. Yeah. Yeah, but... It doesn't make them a superhero or whatever.
Well, you could argue with Iron Man. He's just got
that's true, but then he's,
he's a genius
all the stuff that comes with that. but she's just gonna be a woman that can go invisible for a bit.
Like in Fantastic Four.
Wow, if she's got force fields.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Well
a thing. Yeah, so I don't know what they're gonna do with that. I just feel like that bit at the end was really forced.
Also, because I think with at least The Mummy, there's supposed to be a Dark Universe like title card at the beginning,
Yes.
which this film didn't have. So I
No,
think they
it
have
didn't.
definitely given up on that idea by now.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, it was okay.
That's fine.
It was fine. It was decent. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Dark Waters, I think.
I like Dark Waters more.
I think Dark Waters is the better film.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed Invisible Man more, I think.
I wouldn't
Dunno.
rewatch either.
I don't think I would either.
No. So your film of the week is Invisible Man.
Yeah, I think so.
My film of the week is Dark Waters.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
We could talk about the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen quickly.
Yeah, if you
That
got
film is great. And by that I mean it's janky and full of awful CGI and it's just, bad, but it's such a good film.
I've never seen it.
It's well, when I watched it, ages and ages ago.
Yeah. Is this back in the time when you thought The Amazing Spider-Man was the best one you'd ever seen?
Yes. I remember really enjoying that film. But again, as you say, yeah, that's what we're dealing with.
I think your film tastes have improved since then.
It has.
Good.
Just a little bit. Amazing Spider-Man 2. Oh.
Which is better.
There's only one way to find out. Fight! Anyway, moving on.
You tried to see Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. 2?
Yeah. Well, we were going to see the original one, and I told you it wasn't on that day, and you wouldn't listen to me. And then, for some reason, when we said Spider-Man, the person gave us tickets to Dark Knight Rises.
Which is a much better film.
Yeah, but so I saw Dark Knight Rises twice in the space of a week.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I saw the first Avengers Assemble.
Oh.
I saw that 3 times in cinemas.
No, I saw it once with you after school, I think, once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good film.
That is a good film. That's actually my favourite Avengers film.
Yeah.
And actually probably, I would say the best, well, not the best, but one of the best superhero films probably of all time.
It's really
Like,
good.
a lot-
It holds up so well.
Like, on the one hand, you have, if you want the dark, broody drama stuff, you got Dark Knight. But if you want,
Yeah.
actual, proper, fun superhero, popcorn blockbuster, Avengers Assemble is, the act to follow.
Yeah.
Even Endgame isn't as good as the original
I
Assemble.
think you're right, yeah. But also the original Avengers is so tight, there's only 2 actual fight scenes.
Yeah.
In it, do you know what I mean? It just happens that they both last a really long time.
And also the other thing is, and this is what I discovered when watching Endgame, which is why I've realised why I've sort of lost touch with the rest of the MCU as it went on, was that original core group of Iron Man, Captain America, what's it, Hulk, Thor, Black Widow and Hawkeye.
Yeah.
That core group had such a great chemistry together. And it's their characters which make that film work.
Also, I feel like they wrote that film very well, but all the actors worked together well. But they wrote it in such a way that they...
It was Joss Whedon writing it, which I think is why it has that sort of spark to it.
Yeah, but they work so well as that team of a tight-knit group of 6,
Yeah.
And they all have a role to play individually in the team itself.
Exactly.
So when they are fighting, they're all unique and interesting to watch, aren't they?
And we care about the fights because we care about the characters, and we spent the last 2 hours getting to know what they're like and how they work together.
Yeah. Whereas in Endgame was I
Endgame
enjoyed
was good.
Endgame.
I realised but with Endgame, the reason why it worked more is because it was right, everyone else has died except for, oh look, it's the original core 6. Yeah. Oh, this is brilliant.
This is convenient, yeah. But if you compare the end fights of Endgame and Avengers Assemble, Avengers Assemble, it's not, the whole universe isn't hanging on it, is it? It's just New Nork.
New Nork. New Nork!
It's just New York. And if the Avengers don't win, they're going to nuke it anyway. So, I mean, either way, it's sorted. I say that, but they want to save all these people.
Yeah, because if it gets nuked, that's fine. That's
But
the
at
same
the end of the day,
output.
that is the end of the threat then, isn't it?
Well, I guess.
But because it's obviously it's world defying, but it's not universe defying. It's not we have to get the whole universe behind us to stop this thing. It's small in scope enough to still you know, I don't care personally about the billions of other planets. Like,
that we've never seen or had characterized, and
exactly, you know, all we care about is the people on it.
The problem when you raise stakes too high, it sort of it becomes a bit sort of like numbing almost.
Yeah.
It
also feels, again, then is like, what are they going to do in the future? Because
exactly.
now they've got this.
Because you can't threaten once you threaten the entire universe.
Yeah.
You've written yourself into a corner. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, how's this guy worse than Thanos? Like, oh, he's going to threaten all of the universe times 2.
The universe twice.
Yes. Well, Thanos did it twice. Sort of
yeah.
time travel shit.
But so back to my original point, like comparing the two in Avengers Endgame, it's got to have a shot of all of the superheroes, and there's so many of them, but also some of them fill the same roles. You know, like Tony Stark and Doctor Strange, like, yeah, the powers are different, but they inherently fill the same roles to be the team leader, don't they? The smart, hyper-intelligent team leader, they both fill that same role. And then you have the quippy person, you know, you've got Spider-Man, and then you know, you've got these
Are we
people...
calling Spider-Man quippy, are we?
Well, he is quippy.
Does quippy inherently mean funny?
Not necessarily.
Okay, fair enough.
But then you've got the very, very strong, superpowered person, you know, like Hulk or...
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. Oh, well, I was going to say...
I mean, Ant-Man goes giant, so that was like my sort of immediate comparison.
Yeah, I suppose.
In the way he transforms into a bigger, stronger form.
Yeah. And then you've got Thor and Captain
God.
Marvel on the other hand. You know, like, you've already got these roles covered.
Yeah.
Which is why I think original Avengers works a lot better than Endgame does.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why are they there? We've already got that person. You know? I don't know. Anyway, Invisible Man turned into Avengers very quickly.
Yeah, that's the nature of Ciné Rambles.
Yep. Cool.
So, on to our proper General Rambles topic for today.
Yep.
I'd like to talk about... don't want to get controversial on our third episode. But we'd like to talk about Roman Polanski. So,
Cool, yeah.
for those who have been keeping up with the news, you may have seen with the César Awards in France, which are essentially the French equivalent of the Oscars, as I understand. Roman Polanski has been nominated and has even won a Best Director award at the Césars for his film J'accuse, which is also known as An Officer and a Spy, I think. It's certainly called J'accuse anyway, it's French name. Sure. But yes, and it's had a lot of controversy about him winning a Best Director award despite his accusations of...
It's not accusations,
well,
it's full-on criminal conviction.
Yeah, again, for those who don't know, he was convicted of drugging and raping a 13-year-old girl in 77? 70s, yeah. Of which he then just fled America to evade the charges and went to Europe and has hidden out there and is still wanted in America. Yeah. And yet is somehow still making films.
Still famous.
Yeah.
Still...
And everyone's sort of just let him
free,
off, it seems.
Still free, yeah.
And he said, like, he didn't attend the César Awards because he was afraid of a public lynching. It's like, too right.
Yeah, like, you should be.
Yeah. But so this is the topic I want to talk about in today's episode. It's about... This conversation comes up about, separating the art from the artist.
Yes.
So, for example, The Pianist, which he made in 2002 and got a lot of critical acclaim, won a couple of Oscars as well.
Won 3 Oscars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, that's a film I enjoy.
It is a good film, yeah.
Yeah, but is it wrong to enjoy a film that's made by a convicted felon? And that's the discussion.
See, obviously, stepping on eggshells this whole time, isn't it? Well, yeah. But I think you certainly with a film, you should try to separate art from artist, because he is the director, obviously, but he's still only one piece of a huge machine, isn't he?
As film is, as we're often told, a collaborative art form.
Exactly, but because he's a paedophile and should be hated and convicted, doesn't mean that Adrian Brody, who's in The Pianist and also won an Oscar, he shouldn't. And
it doesn't mean he didn't do some stellar work that should be rewarded, or
because at the end of the day, he's just doing the job, isn't he? He's just getting rightful praise for a job he did very well.
Exactly.
So I feel like for a film, but then you're right, as you were saying, he shouldn't get nominated.
No,
he definitely shouldn't win.
Exactly. I think that's the thing. He's anything that directly awards Roman Polanski. So anything that a Best Director award shouldn't be nominated at all.
Yeah.
But I think there's no reason why a film made by such a person couldn't get like Best Cinematography or Best Sound Design or Best Writing or anything that doesn't directly reward the accused.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, they shouldn't be allowed to make films at all.
Yeah.
And the fact that's the root of the problem.
Should be in prison.
Yeah.
But he's not.
The fact that he can still get his films not only like off the ground but like financed and made
and have that much buzz around him as
because
well.
who's financing him?
Well, I assume himself,
Oh,
but
maybe.
I don't know. Miramax, probably.
Yeah, well, talking Miramax, because then also we talk about Harvey Weinstein, who's produced countless films.
But then you can ask, he's not the creative, is he? He's just the powerhouse behind it.
But then there's people who say like, oh, I can never watch X film again because Y person was involved.
Well, so this is what I was saying as well. It's like, can you still enjoy, say, Seven or Baby Driver because of Kevin Spacey? And I said, yes, because he gives very good performances in both of them. And I feel like he's one part of those films. Obviously, it's bad, and he shouldn't have done the stuff that he did. But can you separate it? I feel like, because I watched Seven the other day, and like that's a really good film, and his performance in it doesn't detract from it. I don't think. Like, he still gives a good performance. I don't know. It's it's a hard topic to think about.
Well, I think ultimately people will. As with everything, you either enjoy something or you don't, and nothing can truly change what you feel about a film. But I think if you enjoy the film completely beforehand and then you learn of something, I don't see why it should change your enjoyment of, unless it does bother you on that level, in which case that is fine if that's how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, that is fine.
But if I loved Seven and I found out Kevin Spacey, I still loved Seven. It's still a film I enjoyed, and I'm not gonna refuse to watch it because he was involved. Because there's also a lot of other people involved, like David Fincher and Morgan Freeman.
The other thing, again, something else I watched recently was Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
And is it second and third series maybe?
Oh, Louis C.K. gets involved, yes.
Louis C.K. obviously did something, I can't remember what he did.
I think it was some molestation charge or something like that.
I think he... Doesn't matter. I think he exposed himself to people.
Or maybe. I thought something sexual, certainly.
Yeah, something bad. Something he shouldn't have done, but he admitted it and was like, and he, doesn't get any work anymore, or whatever. But he's still a funny person, and his old stuff, and him being in Parks and Rec, like, I'm not going to stop watching Parks and Rec because he was in it.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec is brilliant, and the writing is fantastic, regardless of him. But again, like, should you...
I mean, the sad truth is, if you exclude every sort of film or TV show that's had some,
something bad,
someone involved in it, you'll probably have a very small pool left of things to watch.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like an average can't...
Like, back to my point, like, there's so many people involved in it, it's not fair to exclude it entirely just because of one person.
Yeah.
Whereas with music...
Where it's just like one artist kind of thing.
Yeah, like one artist who's done something bad, you can stop listening to that music because
Yeah, especially the artist and then the studio.
Yeah.
The studio has tons of other things going on.
There's another odd thing I said you could do is not pay for those films or not go and see those films in future, but then trying to make that one person suffer or, not get paid for their work or not supporting them, you're also making thousands of other people who deserve to get paid also not see anything from it. Yeah. But then, I don't know. It's an interesting question.
It is an interesting question. But I think it's definitely was a bad idea to give Roman Polanski the Caesar Award. And I think there's been some backtracking on it, I think. Or certainly there was some sort of admission of, well, not sure about guilt, but like the council saying like maybe this wasn't a great idea.
Yeah, that was not a good idea. When would that ever be a good idea?
Yeah, but there's been protests about it, and like a lot of people were in uproar. I know Celine Sciamma, who directed Portrait of a Lady on Fire, sort of walks out of the ceremony.
There was a lot of booing as well as soon as it was announced as well. But it's weird that they ever considered it. Like,
I don't pretend to understand the political sort of framework of all this, but I don't know why they can't just simply give him back to the Americas to, get rid of him.
Because is he French? I think he's French-Polish.
He's French-Polish, yeah.
But if he's a citizen of...
But if he's convicted of a crime, especially one that heinous, surely there can be something done.
That's such a serious crime to have literally I think it was like 47 days in a psychiatric hospital, and that's it. That's the full extent of his punishment.
That's the thing, just because he made like Chinatown and Rosemary's Baby, some other classics,
that
shouldn't preclude him from, facing the charges for the crimes he's committed. And he shouldn't be making films still.
Yeah.
The fact that he's been making films for decades since, and it's almost worn off.
Yeah.
Is disgusting.
But it's also not like everyone else say like in the Me Too movement and the moment, like all the accused people have just denied it. Like Harvey Weinstein denies everything. Roman Polanski literally admitted he did a plea bargain and he said, "Yeah, I'm guilty." He pled guilty to his charges.
Yeah.
So he's even straight up admitted it. So it's 100% clear that he's done this thing, and he is still free. Like, that's just so wrong. Like, why?
Yeah.
And he's just, "Oh yeah, I'm in Europe now, so you can't do anything about it." It's like, well, that's not right, is it?
Exactly. And the fact, he's 87 now. So
it's too late, isn't
exactly,
it?
the chances are he's probably going to die before / if anything ever happens to him.
Yeah.
And he's basically just gotten away with it. Which is just upsetting, really.
Yeah. It's just not right.
Yeah. But I think that's also the other thing as well. Because, he's made Chinatown and Rosemary's Baby, which are also classics.
Yeah.
But those are made before supposedly any of that happened.
Yeah.
So I think those films are also completely kosher.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. But then, well...
So I think that's the thing. I think
I don't know.
there's
damn their entire filmography.
That's the question. I don't believe anything. But if anything ever happens with someone, I think anything that they made before that point is still fine. But you shouldn't continue to support them.
Right.
I think once they do commit any kind of crime of that nature, they should just be straight up sent to jail, not allowed to make films again. Yeah. Like, as much as I like The Pianist, it shouldn't exist, or at least it shouldn't have been directed by Roman Polanski.
Yeah. Yeah.
And same for Jacques.
Especially like they shouldn't plaster his name on it as well. Like, especially like Baby Driver. All the posters for that. So it came out, and then like I don't know, 2 or 3 months later,
it was quite close.
Accusations came out. I think against
Kevin
Kevin
Spacey.
Spacey. And then suddenly all the posters took him off of it and took all of his name off of it, but it was still there. It was still in cinemas. Like they can't. But then that's unfortunate for Edgar Wright and for all the other people in that film.
Yeah.
That then have to. And I don't think the film flopped exactly, but it was nowhere near as big as it would have been.
I think it definitely took a hit.
Yeah.
Marketing wise,
But then that's Edgar Wright suffering for someone else's.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not fair either, is it?
Especially because he would have had no control over that. I probably didn't even know.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't know,
Yeah.
would he? Like, and that happened, like, that's just, I don't know, it's such a hard thing to transverse. Transverse? Is that a word?
Well, I don't think it means...
Traverse. That's
Maybe.
what I meant.
Transverse is a type of wave movement.
Such a hard thing to traverse. There you go, you can edit that in.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I think that probably does it for this week's episode. Got anything else to add?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Film of the week, Invisible Man. Dark Waters is pretty good. Slow. Should have been a documentary.
So your film of the week's Invisible Man.
I think so.
Mine's probably Dark Waters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd give...
say. They're both good. They're
both
so
decent.
different to compare. That's the thing.
Yeah. They're not really comparable at all, are they?
No.
But yeah, I think I'd give them both a 7, maybe a 6.
I gave Invisible Man a 6, Dark Waters a 7.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Something around there. Yeah.
That's about right. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. You have been listening to Ciné Rambles with Nick
And Andrew.
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CinéRamblesOfficial and on Twitter at Ciné Rambles. And for more content, you can read the blog over at cinerambles.blogspot.com. And of course, as always, if you'd like to comment any reviews or suggestions or questions or anything at all, you can get in touch with us at cinerambles@gmail.com. Any closing statements?
Nope. Don't touch kids. Don't leave that in. Fucking hell.
Good life advice. See you next week.
Jesus Christ. Goodbye. Not bad advice, is it?